What is going on, Schwazy gang? Today I am super excited because, well, it's not every day that you get to see a Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera, but also sit and examine and show off all of the features of this amazing collector car. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Jim at the Unique Car Guy for allowing me to come and check out this beautiful car today. If you guys are in the market for a slightly used vehicle or potentially this vehicle itself, definitely check out his website. I'll put his information down in the description below. He has got a large inventory of many different cars, so if it's not this one, maybe you need something a little bit more reasonable, well, he's got the cars for you, so make sure you reach out to him, and he works with a lot of different clients across the United States. Now, without further ado, let's get started and talk about the Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera. Okay, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about over 20 top cool features about the Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera. Now, unfortunately, I will not be able to get behind the wheel and drive this car in today's video, but regardless, I thought this would be an awesome opportunity to show off this beautiful car, and I will give you a little bit of an exhaust note here at some point through the video, so stay tuned for that. First off, I want to show you the exterior. Now, the Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera, as I'm sure you can tell with this vinyl over here, has a lot of other exterior features that we are going to be talking about in today's video. But first off, let me give you a full walk around of this car. I like the lighting from this angle because you can see how beautiful that paint is. One of the first things I wanted to point out is they only made the Superleggera with about 5 different colors. So this is one of the colors, and I think this is one of the most striking. It is an orange color, and I cannot pronounce the name because it's in Italian, but I'll throw it up on the screen right now. But something about this color and a supercar that's not black or white, but orange or blue or red, that's what you need when you have a supercar, in my opinion. So we're actually going to start off with the front of this vehicle, and then we'll talk about some more of the features as we head backwards. Let me open up the hood, I should say, or the frunk, as in Teslas, and we're going to open it up and we're going to show you what it looks like inside. Okay, opening up this Lamborghini frunk, because this is a mid-engine or rear-engine sports car. Nothing really crazy to report over here. It's not a very large space, but I don't think you're getting this car to be a nice daily driver. You do have a 6-disc CD changer, which is kind of interesting to see. Keep in mind, this is from the year 2008, so CDs were a little bit more common back then than they are today. Other than that, you've got your windshield wiper fluid refill over here, and then you've got this Lamborghini bag, which has all of the stuff you need in order to change your tire. But I'm not quite sure if anybody who owns the Lamborghini is going to be changing their own tires. All right, closing up that frunk. This vehicle is paint protected, so that is part of the reason why this hood looks absolutely immaculate, even though this vehicle does have 30,000 miles. The headlights are very cool looking. You don't have any LEDs or anything super fancy like you do today, but keep in mind this car is from 2008, and it is still a head turner in today's day and age. You have your air inlets over here that lead all the way to the back of the vehicle, where you have that glorious V10 engine. Coming off to the side, we have these carbon ceramic brakes. These were actually a $16,000 option when you bought the car brand new. So this is definitely meant for the track. It helps prevent brake fade, and it may make it a little bit difficult to drive in daily driving, but I have a feeling that anybody who buys this car with carbon ceramic brakes doesn't really mind, because it does add for additional stopping power over the traditional brakes that you get on the Gallardo. Now let's briefly touch upon some of the features that you get with the Superleggera trim. First and foremost, this is about a $30,000 option when this car was brand new in 2008. And essentially what this did was it made the car about 150 or so pounds lighter than the standard Gallardo. And on top of that, it also added 11 horsepower. Now we'll talk about that when we get to the rear of the vehicle, where we show off the beautiful engine. But the lighter weight mixed with the more powerful engine led to a more powerful vehicle that had a quicker 0 to 60. Okay, so now let's talk about exactly how they were able to shave off about 150 pounds. And well, the answer is pretty clear when you look at the mirror, and that is the use of a lot of carbon fiber. As I'm sure you know, carbon fiber is a very lightweight material. It's very strong as well. The only downside is it's very expensive, and that is why you're paying over $30,000 for this option back in 2008. But first and foremost, you have these mirror housings, which are full carbon fiber, and this isn't to be confused with any type of wrap. This is true carbon fiber, and it does look different than when you wrap a car in fake carbon fiber. You've got this side sill over here, which is full carbon fiber as well. A very nice touch, and I like the way this orange looks with that gray carbon fiber. Coming out to the back of the vehicle, this giant rear spoiler is also full carbon fiber, and so is this engine cover. So this is something that came with a Superleggera package and added to making this car a lot lighter in weight. Another way they were able to save weight is this is actually plastic and not glass. So that is another way that they were able to shave off a few pounds. And there you can see that beautiful V10 engine under this cover over here. Now moving down to the back, you have this rear diffuser, which is full carbon fiber as well, and it really does add a nice touch to the rear end of this vehicle. And as I'm sure you can tell with me pointing out all of the different carbon fiber components, you understand how they were able to shave off about 150 pounds off of the car. The next thing I wanted to point out is on the inside, you can tell this entire door panel is full carbon fiber, and I don't think I've ever seen this on any other car, at least any production car, to have a full door panel that's carbon fiber. And it's almost hard to tell on camera with the way the light reflects, but it really is beautiful. And then we'll jump in the inside in a moment, but this entire center console is also carbon fiber. So now this window back here is also not a window, but it is plastic. And same with this window back here. So a little bit deceiving and not really noticeable if you're just walking by the car, but those two pieces are also plastic, which add to the lightweight features of this car. Going underneath the car, the underbody cover is also carbon fiber. So you combine all of those different things, and that is how you get about 150 pounds lighter for this Superleggera version of the Gallardo. Now let's talk about how they were able to make the engine a little bit more powerful with 11 additional horsepower. First off, we got to open up the trunk. To do that, you actually get behind the driver's seat and you pull on that aluminum tab, and that unlocks or pops open the trunk of this car to show off the engine. Now, opening up the trunk of this car, you can see there is a backup camera located on the rear spoiler, and we'll show you what that looks like when I get inside the car. But they say that they were able to achieve the additional 11 horsepower by changing the intake manifold of this car and updating the software, tuning it a little bit differently. And that's how they were able to get a more powerful engine mated with the lighter weight using the carbon fiber. And this entire piece is extremely lightweight. Now, I know that there's hood struts, or I should say trunk struts, holding it open, but regardless, this thing probably weighs like 3 to 5 pounds. It really is not a heavy piece of sheet metal like you would traditionally have with a hood or a trunk of a vehicle. While we're back here, let's talk about the specs of this car. I know I've mentioned that it's 11 horsepower more than the traditional Gallardo, but what does that mean? Well, this is a 523 horsepower, 5-liter V10 engine from Lamborghini, and this is different than the second generation of the Gallardo, where the engine was actually essentially the exact same as the Audi R8. This one is pretty much a bespoke Lamborghini engine, which makes it a little bit more unique than the later generation versions of this car. But it produced, like I said, 523 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque, and it's mated to a 6-speed E-gear single-clutch auto manual. So what does that mean? Well, this is kind of the early generations before they had double clutches, or at least commonly used double clutch transmissions, where this is essentially a manual transmission, but they do have an automatic mode, and you do control it with these paddle shifters on the left and right side of the steering wheel. Now, one thing to note is this vehicle did come with a manual transmission. I believe it was a 6-speed manual, and you could opt for the manual for the exact same price as the automatic. It was not any cheaper, not any more expensive, but the fact is the majority of people purchasing this car bought it with this e-gear auto manual transmission, and there's only probably like 5 or 10 that ever sold in the manual, and those cars are going for an even higher premium. So chances are if you have one of those in your garage, you could probably sell that car and get a pretty nice house. Now the transmission sends power to all 4 wheels. So this is an all-wheel drive car, and that means you can drive it in the snow. No, I'm just kidding. You probably never want to drive this when it's even remotely wet, but this does send power to all 4 wheels, and that's what adds partially to the weight of this vehicle. It is a little over 3,000 to 3,500 pounds, depending on what statistic you're looking at. There's not too much information on that, but it is still heavier than some of its Ferrari competitors. But nonetheless, the carbon fiber does help it reduce the amount of weight and increase the power to weight ratio. So aside from those two things, the Superleggera also tuned the suspension a little bit differently. So this rides different than the regular Gallardo. And from my understanding, the exhaust actually sounds different than any other Gallardo. So the Superleggera exhaust has its own distinct bespoke note to it. Probably one of the best sounding Lamborghinis that you have ever heard. And we'll show you a clip of what that sounds like right now. So what does the combination of all of these things mean when it comes to real-life performance? Well, the top speed of this car is 196 miles per hour. It also does 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. Now, that's about half a second or almost half a second quicker than the regular base Gallardo. So if you really want the most extreme version of the Gallardo of 2008, this is the car you go for. Now, this is not just your regular daily driver. This is pretty much a full-on race car. From the way it sounds to the carbon fiber used throughout the entire interior and exterior to that e-gear transmission that's really best suited for race car driving or track experiences. That is what this car is for. This isn't just your daily driver. And well, chances are if you're shopping for a car like this, you probably have a regular daily driver in your garage. Now let's talk about the rarity of the Superleggera, because I've already mentioned what it includes, but I haven't really talked about how many of these were ever made. In 2008, they only made a little over 600 of these specific cars. To give you a frame of reference, over the entire course of the Gallardo's existence, they produced a little over 14,000 models. So it's a very rare car. There's not very many of them out there. And even though they did make a second generation Superleggera as well, it's still a very limited production car. In the US, there's actually only about 172 of these cars. So this is one of 172 here located in the States. And this may be one of probably 10 that are actually for sale right now, if not less than that. So if you guys are interested in this car, like I said, make sure you check out the website for Unique Car Guy and reach out to him if you are in the market and have the cash, obviously, to do so. What makes the Gallardo interesting is this is really the first Lamborghini with Audi's influence or Volkswagen's influence, because Volkswagen acquired Lamborghini in 1998, and the Gallardo was technically the first vehicle that was under their supervision. The Murcielago that came out in about 2001 or 2002, that one had a little bit of German influence to it, but it really wasn't a German car. This one, for the most part, is German, and especially when we jump inside, you'll notice the German influence on the interior, but at the same time, the engine is really Italian. You don't really have very many V10 cars in Germany. That's really a traditional Lamborghini thing and a traditional Italian thing. And so you kind of have the best of both worlds. You have a little bit of Italian influence on the design and the engine engineering, and then the inside components are very German. And so there's a lot of newer amenities that this car came with that many cars in 2008 didn't have, let alone supercars of this price point. Now, some may see that as a negative, having the German influence on an Italian supercar, but I personally don't, because I think Lamborghini exists today partially because they were acquired by a German car, especially Volkswagen with a lot of cash in its pockets. It was able to revive the brand and bring something a little bit new and different. This car arguably wouldn't have been developed if it wasn't for Germans' influence on the acquisition of Lamborghini in 1998. Now I want to jump inside and show you all of the interior features of this car, which, as I said, you'll notice some of the German influence when we hop in there. First and foremost, again, I want to point out this carbon fiber door panel. Again, something I've never seen before, and kind of a cool concept contrast with the orange exterior that the camera doesn't really catch, but I'm doing the best I can. Something I've noticed here, and I don't read Italian, so I can't say I understand this, but I'm guessing this is when the vehicle was actually built. It is June of 2007. Now, this is a 2008 model year, but I believe it was built in June of 2007. So that's kind of a nice touch. It says Superleggera here in case you were confused by the carbon fiber door panel. And let's jump inside to show you what the seats look like. Now, this is full Alcantara. Same on the steering wheel, same on the dash, on the seats. This is something unique to the Superleggera package. And it's actually funny, the European sports cars had a slightly different seat. I think they had a little bit more carbon fiber to them, but the ones shipped to North America or to the United States, those ones had this type of seat. And I gotta say, it looks really cool and really comfortable. You've got this cool orange color that matches the exterior of the vehicle. And I'm not sure if they changed this depending on the exterior color. I imagine they did, but regardless, the orange matches really well with the outside. You've got Superleggera written over here on the side bolster. And overall, a really nice looking seat. Nothing really to write home about, but it's still pretty cool looking, especially in 2008. Jumping inside, definitely not the easiest thing since this car is really low to the ground. Over on the left-hand side, you have the reverse button, which is funny. The reverse is here, but your auto and your sport mode and everything is located here. So kind of a weird reason why they put it on the left-hand side and didn't keep it where they had all the other buttons. But regardless, that's your reverse button. You have your air vents over here, which kind of move around, nothing too crazy with that. The rest of this dash is full Alcantara. You've got 3 more vents over here, another one over there, and then these are some of your gauge clusters. And let me put the ignition key in so you can see how they look. Speaking of keys, before I move forward with that, this is kind of funny looking because this looks just like essentially a Volkswagen or Audi key from the late 2000s. You've got this switchblade style design to it, and I used to have a Volkswagen Jetta that pretty much had this exact same key, except it was a little bit more squared off, and this one looks like it has a little bit of a swooping line to it up here in the left-hand corner. But nonetheless, this is really kind of funny looking that this matches the Lamborghini, because not that I know what other Lamborghini keys look like, but this looks to me a lot like a Volkswagen key. Anyways, opening up this key and putting it into the ignition, this does not have push-button start, but very few cars did in this time period. It's cool to hear the engine powering up when you first get into this thing. It sounds like a jet engine or something. Let me close the door so it doesn't keep beeping at me. Going back to these gauges, it's a little bit hard to see on camera, but the first one on the left is your engine oil pressure. I believe the middle one is your transmission temperature. I could be mistaken. And then the one on the left is your battery voltage. You also have a few more gauges on this digital display over here. Really not too bad for the year 2008, especially for a supercar where air conditioning was kind of a big ask for some of these vehicles. So the center has a pretty decently sized, probably 2.5, 3-inch iPhone size screen, but in days where there were really no digital displays at all, it's kind of refreshing to see that. Nothing too crazy here. You've got your engine oil temperature over on the left. This one is your engine oil pressure. This is your engine oil temperature. That's why I believe that middle gauge is actually your transmission temperature. You've got your tachometer over here with your date, time, and on the right-hand side, you have your speedometer, which goes up to 210 miles per hour, although, like I said, the top speed of this car is 196. You've got your odometer there. This has 31,160 miles, and then this shows you what gear you're in. On the right-hand side, this is just to go through and shuffle through the different menus that you have. So it has your brake light, coolant, your oil, your brake wear. It shows you the E-gear. I don't know what exactly it shows you, but it shows you that. Then your miles per hour 2, all-wheel drive mode. I'm not sure what that sign is. I have no idea what that little pedal thing is, and then it kind of just shuffles through all of that. So a very simple center display gauge that I don't think anybody really played with, but still something new, especially for a Lamborghini of this time period. Then you've got different lighting modes, and then you can change your trip odometer settings over there. On the left-hand side, this is just to shuffle through the date and the time and make changes as necessary. That pretty much wraps up the center display console in the dashboard. You have a steering wheel over here, which, like I said, is Alcantara. It's got a flat bottom with carbon fiber over here, really nice touch. No steering wheel buttons, none of that in this car because, well, if you're driving this vehicle, you probably aren't really caring too much about the radio. Coming over to the center display, this is where I think you have a lot of German influence. I mean, this to me looks a lot like any Audi or Volkswagen of this time period. You've got dual zone climate control, which I think, I could be wrong, but this is a first for a Lamborghini where you have a dual zone climate control system, different fan speeds for each side, which is really nice. This button down here is where you change the different modes of where the fans are blowing out of. These are just some blank buttons, which is kind of funny for a car of this price point to have any blank switches, but it does have blank switches over here. You've got the on-off to turn the entire system off. Got the return button and pretty much the same features on this right-hand side for the passenger. Moving up a little higher, you've got your automatic windows. Automatic windows in a Lamborghini, which is also a pretty cool feature. You've got your headlights on and off. These are, my understanding, are fog lights. You've got your hazards. You've got your electronic stability control. This is a button to open up your gas tank, which is cool. Usually you see it on the driver's side door. And this is the passenger window. So all of those switches work. They work really well. Jumping up to this infotainment screen, which is pure German in my opinion. It's kind of cool. You've got this button over here that opens it up in very German-like style for your DVD/CD player. So there's a single disc over here, and then like I showed earlier, there's the 6 disc up in the front. You can also put SD cards if you'd like. FM, AM, CD, SD. This is just your name directory for your phone. So you can hook up your phone here via Bluetooth. That's a pretty cool feature, especially in 2008. This is your navigation. This just gives you some information on your navigation. This is your car system, which really just shows you what version. And then your setup, there's no options available. And maybe that's because the car isn't turned on, but nonetheless, we're not here to examine the infotainment screen. One quirk about the interior is the volume knob, and this was actually a quirk of a lot of Volkswagens from this same time period. Is, as you can see, the power actually shifts around with the way you're spinning the volume knob. So rather than have the volume stationary in the middle and then have the knob move around it, it moves the power with it. So it's just kind of a funny quirk of the interior, and Volkswagens did this as well. This is how you control your different menus. So, you know, you push the left and right quadrants of the screen, and then the knob is how you shift through the menus. So similar to like an iDrive system in a BMW, except instead of having it down here, you have it up here with this knob. Again, not very many people would, I assume, play with this feature when they have a Lamborghini Superleggera, but regardless, you have that, and it's a nice feature to have when you're paying this much for a vehicle. That pretty much finishes off this top portion of the center console. Coming down to this bottom portion, this is how you control the automatic mirrors, so the left and the right. Again, you have some blank switches here, which is kind of funny to see on a car of this price point. And then this was kind of a cool feature that I said I'd talk about later. You can push this button and it shows you the backup camera, and I gotta say, this backup camera quality isn't that much worse than a lot of cars in today's day and age. My 2018 Toyota RAV4 had about the same quality of a backup camera, and this is 10 years older than that car. So kind of a nice feature to have, and it's cool to be able to turn on a backup camera whenever you want to, rather than have it on whenever you push the reverse button. So I like that. I wish more cars had that. This button actually regulates the lowering and lifting of the front end of the car, especially when you're pulling into steep driveways. That's a really nice feature to have, and I'm glad they had this in a car from 2008. Moving further down, this is kind of the drivetrain selector where you can put it in auto mode, or you can keep it in manual by using these paddle shifters that are located behind the steering wheel. And surprisingly, they are not carbon fiber, which I would expect the Superleggera would have carbon fiber paddle shifters, but these are not carbon fiber, but nonetheless, they're like a really nice aluminum or whatever material they are. They feel really good, and they kind of slap back really nice. So it's a very nice material. I'm just surprised it's not carbon fiber like you would have in a lot of modern sports cars. You got a sport mode, and then I like this. I think this is a traction control, but what's funny is it kind of shows a Lamborghini tipping over on the front little display, and it's really poor graphics, but let's see if my camera can focus. But it is still kind of funny looking. It looks like you're flipping over a Lamborghini. And, well, I guess what else can you ask for from a display from 2008? But that's kind of a funny feature right there. Nothing else to report here. You've got more carbon fiber. There's nothing else that opens up here aside from your handbrake. And then moving back, you have this open tray back here, which does not have any cover to it. I'm guessing because of weight savings, or maybe that's just their excuse. But you can actually still fit a pretty decent sized smartphone. Mine's a pretty large large smartphone, and it still fits back here, even though they didn't really have large smartphones back in 2008. So it's a pretty decently sized compartment. I just wouldn't put any valuables in here because you can't cover it. Going over to the passenger side, again, more Alcantara. You do have an airbag, and nothing really to report that's different on the passenger side. Still the same carbon fiber. You do have the controls for locking and unlocking your car over here as well. And it makes this nice little sound to it. Another thing I wanted to point out about the seats as we're getting out of the vehicle, or at least attempting to get out, is you actually have airbags on the side of the seats over here, which I don't know of any other supercars that really had side airbags, especially from this time period. And you also have automatic seats, which is really unusual for a supercar. So as you can tell, this car came with a lot of cool features that many 2008 era Audis would come with, like a decent infotainment screen with navigation. You have backup camera. You even got side airbags. Those are all things that you would not expect from a supercar, especially one like Lamborghini. And due to the ownership of Volkswagen, this car has a lot of those cool features that you would find in luxury Volkswagen vehicles from the same era. And that is why I think the Gallardo was such a successful vehicle. Is it was a little bit more attainable when it came to its price point. I'm talking about the standard version and not the Superleggera, but the standard version was a little bit more attainable. It had a lot of cool features. It was a beautiful looking car with a very glorious V10 engine that sounded amazing. And what the Superleggera does, it just takes a great formula and makes it even better. Makes it weigh less, makes it more powerful, makes it sound differently, and adds a few more aesthetics that make it a little bit different than an already great vehicle like the Lamborghini Gallardo. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video as much as I did. I was definitely like a kid in a candy store just walking in and seeing this car sitting here. This is pretty much the poster child of Lamborghini. I think a lot of kids my age had a poster of this car on the wall of their bedrooms, idolizing it and looking forward to owning one someday. And being able to see one and review one is really just an amazing experience, and I'm very thankful to be able to see this car and review it in person. Again, huge thank you to Jim at the Unique Car Guy for giving me the opportunity to spend the day here with this Lamborghini. And make sure you check out his website and give him a call if you're in the market for not only this car, but maybe something a little bit more reasonable. If this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and check me out on Instagram and TikTok at Shwazy_. Until next time, boys and girls, stay Shwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day.